With that, I'm going to pass it on over to one of my wonderful colleagues here, Brenda, to introduce herself, and we'll go down the line.
Hey y'all, how's it going? It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Brenda Del Rio. I'm one of the assistant directors of undergraduate admission at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. And we'll talk more about that later, but again, we're really glad to have you here.
Thank you. And my name is Samantha O'Brien. I use she and her pronouns. I am the Senior Assistant Director for Partnership Programming at Yale Undergraduate Admissions. I'm also a former fifth and sixth grade teacher who turned into a community-based organization college counselor for a while. So I am very excited to be here to discuss finding the right fit with you and the STARS College Network tonight. I'm going to pass it on over to Phil.
Awesome. Thanks, Samantha. Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Verpeel. Great to be with you all. I serve as Assistant Vice President and Executive Director of Admissions at Auburn University. Really excited to be with you all today and glad you took the opportunity to be with us. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chase Weldon. I'm the Assistant Dean of Diversity Outreach and External Relations at Stanford University, and I'm very excited to speak with you all here tonight.
All right, and with that, I'm going to share a little bit about STARS, just in case you don't know much about us yet so far. We are the Small Town and Rural Students College Network, and we bring together 32 top colleges and universities who are dedicated to working with high schools and access organizations to widen pathways to higher education for rural and small town students. So all of our institutions provide new college access and affordability programs for rural and small town students, as well as their communities, to bring the nation's best and brightest, no matter where they live, to a school that is the best fit for them. Because we are all stronger together, the STARS College Network hopes to build a stronger and healthier ecosystem of opportunity that spans the nation. And to do this, we have 4 different pillars of engagement. The first is to go to students. So we travel to rural and small town communities. There's a lot of group travel that we participate in throughout the year, coming to you where you live. We bring students to us. We have lots of free programs on our campuses that you can apply to, whether that's a summer program. We have fly-in or drive-in programs that you can participate in. And we also, like tonight, want to meet students in the middle with virtual programming. There's usually 2 different sessions every month. And we also want to make sure there are options for students during and after college so that you stay connected to home. So this is a 2-way road for careers in rural areas. We want to make sure we are emphasizing on giving rural and urban students opportunities to engage with rural America as a whole through all of these different opportunities through the STARS College Network. With that, here is a brief agenda for what we are going to be covering. We're first going to go over some different areas of fit, just to bucket them up in ways that are hopefully a little bit more digestible. So first, we're going to talk about what an academic fit for a college or university might mean for you, a social fit. And then I'm a little bit of a financial aid nerd, so I'll be talking about the financial fit portion of things, talking about post-graduation options, things that you can consider when you're looking at colleges for that, even before you step foot on that campus. And then some next steps before going into a little about each of our institutions and answering any questions that you have at the end. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to Brent again to cover, to Chase to cover our academic fit portion. Take it away, Chase.
All righty. Thank you so much, Samantha, and good evening again to you all. All right, so choosing a college is a big decision, as everyone here already knows, and understanding what to look for academically can really help you find the college that's going to be the best fit for you, right? Not the best fit for your best friend or your cousin, right? Or your brother or your sister, but the best fit for you. So one of the first things to think about when researching colleges is the type of institution that you're applying to. So different types of schools offer different academic experiences. For example, you have public versus private schools. Public universities, they tend to be larger with lower tuition for in-state students. Private colleges can be smaller with a more personalized academic experience and additional financial aid opportunities. And just a fun fact for you all, with financial aid, many private universities can actually end up being cheaper than the flagship public university in your home state. You also have liberal arts universities versus research universities. Liberal arts colleges focus on broad education across disciplines. So great for students who want flexibility, or maybe you don't know exactly what you want to major in yet. Research universities, they tend to offer more specialized programs, like large-scale research opportunities and many pre-professional programs as well. There are also specialized institutions. So some schools focus on specific fields, like STEM-focused colleges, business schools, or arts conservatories. And as you research colleges, it's important to think about what kind of academic environment really excites you the most, and really, what makes you feel alive, right? So really keep that in mind today, and as you go forward in your academic journey. Next, you'll also want to consider the majors and academic programs available at each college. So one of the first questions that you want to ask is, does this particular college offer the major that I'm interested in? Okay, so some schools specialize in certain fields, i.e. strong engineering, business, or arts programs. So you want to look through the department websites, what courses are offered, what research or internship opportunities exist. Those are some of the key questions that you want to keep in mind. You also want to look at academic flexibility. So some schools allow students to double major, some even triple major, minor, or create their own major. Those are different opportunities that are available. You also want to ask yourself, how easy is it to switch majors? At some universities, students apply directly into a major, and changing it can be very, very difficult. So you definitely want to, understand the policy, that you're going to subscribe to, depending on the different colleges that you're interested in. There's also experiential learning opportunities as well. So does the school encourage hands-on learning through study abroad, internships, or undergraduate research as well? And then once you've found schools that interest you, it's important to understand the different admissions requirements. So many schools will have coursework requirements or recommendations. For example, many schools ask that you take 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, science, and foreign language. Some schools have GPA requirements, right? While others focus on class rigor or a combination of both. So these are things to consider in your search. Also, you want to be aware of, testing requirements, right? Does the school that you're interested in, or do the schools that you're interested in require testing? Typically the SAT or the ACT, or maybe the school that you're considering, or one of the schools on your list, is test optional. So you can submit your test scores if you feel comfortable, right? But you also can elect not to submit testing. And there are also some schools that are test blind, meaning that they do not consider testing at all. And then the last thing I'll mention is holistic review, right? So most colleges look beyond grades. So they're also going to consider your extracurriculars, leadership, opportunities that you've engaged in, and also your personal interest. And then, there are also some special programs and early admission programs that different colleges support as well. Okay, so those are just some of the many things to keep in mind. I know that was a laundry list there. As you think about the academic fit in your search. I will pass it to my colleague.
Awesome. Thank you, Chase. Good stuff. So, of course, looking for those academic components is very important. And so is that social component as well. So I'm here to fill you in on the best tips and practices that you can obtain when it comes to that social fit, right? Because that's going to be a really important factor for you, especially in determining how happy that you're going to be on that campus. There's a lot of different social components that come into play, of course. It's really up to you and just asking yourself not only what your preferences are throughout this process, but also what it is that's most convenient for you as well. I think that's something that's really important to consider too. For example, distance from home home, that's a really bit of a self-explanatory one, but how far away do you want to be from home? Are you looking to be in state or out of state? Do you know that you want to be close to your family and have easy access, or would you prefer to experience a brand new environment, for example? So those are just going to be some questions that you'll be asking yourself when it comes to considering how far away that it is that you want to be from home. And from there, it'll really help you funnel down to see which other colleges and universities that you can really start to target based off the location that you might want to go into. Something else that's really important, speaking of, is the location in itself, right? So considering other factors such as the environment, right? Do you prefer colder weather? Do you prefer warmer weather? Climate is going to be a really important role. It's also going to be really important to consider other factors such as are you prepared to be in that climate, right? So, for example, if you're someone that's used to living in a tropical environment, you might not have a lot of that more expensive winter gear that you might really need. So, are you fully prepared to kind of invest in those areas? Is something that'll be really important to consider. So, again, that convenience factor as well. Something, of course, that you'll really want to pay attention to that'll really help drive your decision making factor is the size, right? Everyone has their own personal preference in terms of that student population. Some of us feel really comfortable being a small fish in a big pond. So, if you don't mind going to a larger school, that's something that you can really consider. Other of us, I know, for example, like me, I prefer that more one on one, intimate environment. So, I specifically targeted small schools that had small faculty to student ratios or small classroom sizes, just as an example. And that was really important in helps of determining how my social environment was also going to be driven. Another important factor that's kind of also closely tied to distance from home is housing. That's going to be really important too. Not all universities and colleges have guaranteed housing, and some of them have different housing requirements and also different housing protocols as well. So, doing that research in the different schools that you're applying to will also be really helpful so that you better understand what kind of factors that you're working with, especially in terms of that cost, which we're going to talk about later too. Some universities and colleges do guarantee housing for all 4 years. Some will require it just for those first 2 years, for example. And for others, you're not required to live on campus at all, and you're more than welcome to commute, for example. So, those are all different kinds of factors that are really important to consider. And then last but not least, tying into that environment, rural, urban, or suburban. One thing that all of these bring together is that you'll find each college or university has their own personality as well. So being able to kind of pivot and decide what your preferences are, what's most convenient for you, and also, of course, visiting too will be really important so that you can just really get a feel. But understanding what those preferences are to you, again, will be the ultimate driving factor and really honing down that list, especially since for a lot of you all, you might not really know where to get started. So, considering academic and social factors like these will really help you create that nice, robust list. But other than that, I really don't have anything else to add in terms of that social aspect. We can move on forward, and I will pass it back over to my colleague. I believe it's Samantha that's next.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will go ahead and shift gears here to talk about financial. We have a list of some other social clubs and support services to consider as well when you're thinking about social. But aside from these, for financial fit purposes, I want you to consider the following questions. So, are the colleges and universities you are looking at need aware or need blind? So, in other words, do they know you are applying for financial aid or not? At Yale, where I work, we adopted a need blind admissions policy back in 1963, which means your ability to pay or not pay cannot hurt you in the admissions process. Financial aid applications are reviewed and financial aid is awarded completely separate from admissions. This is not the case at all institutions. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're looking at different financial aid opportunities at the various schools you're considering. Do the colleges and universities you're considering meet 100% of need. So need is usually calculated based on your family's annual income and assets using applications like the FAFSA, CSS profile, and copies of recent tax documents. So the maximum amount of need is going to equal the cost of attendance for 1 year. Okay, so while cost of attendance for Yale roughly right now for 1 year is $90,000. If we look at an easier example here, if the cost of attendance is $40,000 a year and your family's calculated financial need is $30,000, that means they can only afford $10,000 towards the cost according to the institution's calculations. So if the institution is 100% need met, you would receive the full $30,000 in financial aid. But if it's 50% need met, you might receive $15,000 in financial aid, leaving a bill of $25,000 in order to attend. Do the colleges and universities you're considering offer merit scholarships or need-based aid? Yale does not offer merit or athletic-based scholarships. A lot of people find that shocking. We think everyone admitted is deserving of merit. So our financial aid is all need-based. So like I said, that's based off of your family's annual income and their assets. But some institutions may offer scholarships based on merit or your academic achievements and have different timelines associated with receiving those. Next, I want to go over a little bit about how to read a financial aid offer. So I know I already mentioned some of these terms on our last slide, but let's go into them a bit more in depth. So that cost of attendance minus financial aid is going to be your net cost, what it would cost for an entire year at a college or university. This is going to include everything from billed expenses like tuition, fees, housing, and meals. These are things that you're going to pay the institution for, as well as unbilled expenses. So those are going to be things like travel and estimated personal expenses. You're going to pay for those separately, but they're all included in that cost of attendance for 1 year. Now, financial aid can come in different forms. Grants and scholarships are going to be free money. We love those. But on the other, on some financial aid offers, you're going to see loans or work study. Right here under gift aid, you see Yale scholarship. So there are no loans or gift study included on this. But work study is an amount you actually have to work to earn. And once you earn it, that can go towards those unbilled expenses like travel and personal expenses, but it probably won't help with your bill. And these types of financial aid can come from the federal government, the state, the institution, or through private means. Once you subtract the financial aid, or what Yale calls that gift aid here, the bottom line is your net cost, and that's going to include those billed and unbilled expenses. If you want to see examples of financial aid offers or learn more about financial aid terms, I encourage you to check out collegeprice.org. The College Board's Big Future is another really helpful resource. It's going to have the institution-specific financial aid information, like I mentioned earlier, whether that school is need met or need blind or how much need they meet is all going to be found on College Board Big Future's website. All right, one more slide about financial aid, and then we'll jump into a little bit about our institutions and post-graduation fit. Some action items to think of. All right, please, 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 if you remember anything, have a conversation about the reality of your family's finances while you're going into this college search process. Talking about money is really hard, but you need to figure out how much your family can realistically contribute or not contribute towards your education. And you can complete financial aid research by doing these two calculators before applying. So the My Intuition Quick College Cost Estimator literally takes like 3 minutes. Super fast, easy to use. The net price calculator is a little bit more comprehensive, but it still only takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So not a ton of time. And you will get the hang of these the more you do them to anticipate some of the questions that'll be asked or financial information you need to input when you're doing your actual financial aid applications. Both of these are going to provide an estimated financial aid offer, so you know before you even apply whether or not that institution is going to be a good fit for you financially. Trust me from experience, you do not want to apply to a range of colleges and universities that may meet your academic and your social fit, right? Get admitted and then not be able to afford to attend. I personally ended up going to a university that gave me the most financial aid, but that bottom line or the net cost was astronomical. And I had over $100,000 in student loan debt that I would not have had if these two calculators existed, and I was able to use them and do this research ahead of time. So please take advantage of these tools at your fingertips. Few other things here. Please prepare the required forms and documents ahead of time. You're going to need these to determine some accurate estimates. I like to say garbage in, garbage out on these. If you don't know what numbers you're putting in, you're not going to get an accurate estimate. It's not going to calculate the correct amounts for you. And then it helps you get some practice when you actually have to fill out the real ones. I also encourage you to stay on top of those deadlines, like I mentioned before. If your attendance depends on financial aid decisions, you really want to have all that information at your fingertips come spring when you're comparing your offer letters for attendance and financial aid. So the earlier you get that financial aid application in, the better. I like to encourage students to submit it around the same time they're submitting their admissions applications. And then finally, please do not hesitate to reach out to financial aid offices with unique financial situations and questions. All of our institutions have offices that are happy to help you even before you're a college student on their campus, whether that's filling out the calculators or you're just unsure about your situation. Give them a call and they will be more than happy to help you out. With that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Phil.
Thanks, Samantha. Well, again, great to be with you all. I'm super excited to talk about your future, and certainly choosing the right university is important. What is also important is finishing and walking across the stage with a diploma in your hand, seeking out your dreams. So for tonight and this afternoon, I'd love to talk about a couple of my favorite books. You'll learn that I love to read. Everyone calls me Dr. Phil, and maybe it's because I love to read as well. But the first book that I'll recommend is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's written by Stephen Covey. And the second habit is beginning with the end in mind. And as you think about where you want to be after graduation and taking steps now to make that vision a reality, you really want to think about the end, right, at this point. And many of you are doing that, right? You're in this process tonight, engaged and thinking about your future. But it doesn't stop about getting to the university, but thinking about the end point, right? And where you want to be when you graduate and what's beyond that. So if you're setting your sights for the end, you're already successful. The other thing that's really interesting is that success is not a solo journey. You can see at the bottom, the seeking out mentors, but, college life and really the success that you have in college is really about relationships with your professors, your peers, staff, alumni, and even employers. I know for me in my journey, I was the first in my family to go to college. I was also from a low-income family on the south side of Chicago, and I wouldn't be where I am today without a number of people in my life to help me get there. So it's interesting to think about the people that you'll meet in college. Those are people that are going to help open doors for you, offer guidance to you and push you to grow. And that's really that idea of your network, right? And your network isn't just about who you know, it's about who knows you. So be intentional about building connections and surrounding yourself with people who are going to challenge and inspire you. The next book that I'll recommend, and again, you'll see where I'm going with this, but it's a great one called Good to Great. It's by Jim Collins. And it's interesting in that book, He talks about this idea called the hedgehog theory. And the hedgehog theory really just means that there's three simple ideas that will lead to being great, right? And certainly graduating, if you think about graduating high school, it is a really good accomplishment, right? And for many people, it is a great accomplishment. But there's always a next level, right? And that's what we're here talking about tonight. And that next level, in order to go from good to great, there's three components that are always a part of that. And right, and they're passion, purpose, and preparation. And as you think about your passion, what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? And if it's not your parents, maybe it's something else, right? And college can be that way to identify what your passion is. Purpose, right? And you might think maybe money is a purpose, right? It's having that goal of maybe a dollar sign or a career opportunity, or serving others or helping people, or being really engaged in research, right? And supporting a really important cause. But whatever that purpose is, oftentimes the college that you choose is going to help you find that purpose. And then preparation being the last piece to this puzzle, and preparation being one of those pieces that many of you are certainly in a position to be prepared to take the next steps. But then really, as you look to become a leader in your field in graduation, those classes that you take, the curriculum that you go through, that's that preparation that's really important to then get you to the next step. And I know for me, again, all those three aligned for me to be successful to where I'm at. So again, maybe recapping this page, it's really important to think about building a resume for yourself in college, right? If we think about this idea of beginning with the end in mind, you're going to have 4, maybe 5 years to really build out a resume and an experience that tells the story of your growth. So seek out opportunities like internships, research with professors, assistantships, or even scholarships to showcase your skills. The goal isn't just to be good, but it's to be great, to stand out in a crowd of talented graduates. So when you do graduate, you're on to your career and certainly on to your dreams. So on the next slide here, you'll see what we think are next steps, right? So it's never too early to plan for your future. All the things that you heard tonight are all with the idea of action, right? Take some next steps, actionable items, get moving, attend college search events. Certainly many of you have looked at a number of websites, but really take an opportunity to get connected. I think what's really exciting, especially in this day and time, is that we can be connected, right? We're on, this evening, on a Zoom, connecting with you all, and each of us are at really amazing institutions, and we're connecting with you, right? And you have that opportunity to continue that connection beyond today, and I would welcome you all to do that, not only just us, but certainly with our institutions and other institutions as well. Other things to think about, certainly identifying those key factors for you that are important, visiting campuses, doing research, right? This is such a critical time for you to do research and recognize different funding opportunities for yourself. And certainly thinking about starting your application early, right? That's the beginning with the end in mind. But really, you can actually begin, many colleges and universities will allow you to open your application and begin in that summer, so that August 1, once that opens up, you can press submit and you're off and running. So again, really excited for you to take your next steps.
With that, I know there were some questions about additional STARS resources. So if you have not signed up for our mailing list or checked out the STARS website, you can do that by scanning this handy dandy QR code here. You can learn about the 32 member schools. You heard a little bit about 4, but there are 28 others to check out who are supporting this initiative. Register for future programming there. There were some questions in the Q&A about AP classes or dual enrollment. I will share that we are a wonderful partner with Khan Academy and Schoolhouse that offers various courses online and certification for courses that may not be available at your schools. A lot of our institutions accept these certificates or review them as part of the admissions process, which can help if that isn't available at your school. With that said, you can also estimate financial aid. It's going to take you to different websites and give you some of those tools we talked about earlier and much, much more. There are ways to sign up for summer programs, different scholarships available for that, to set foot on a campus, see if it's a good fit for you, experience maybe a certain area of academic study you're thinking about, and hey, you go, you love it, great. You can continue pursuing that, potentially apply to that institution, or you go and you figure out it's not for you, and hey, at least you learned something. So there are some great summer programs that we will discuss on our website, as well as fly-in programs. So if you don't know what a fly-in program is, in my opinion, it's like a college visit on steroids, where it is fully covered, transportation, accommodations. You get to spend usually multiple days, multiple nights, like you're a college student in that institution. So there are different fly-in programs for students across the country. Some are specific to small town and rural students. Others are a little bit more diverse depending on our institution, but all that information is going to be available on our website. So please, please, please check it out. With that, I am going to hop on over to some of our Q&A. I know there are a few open in here. If my lovely panelists wouldn't mind rejoining me, we can go ahead and divide and conquer these. So let's see. I mentioned briefly, Tommy and Lillian, your questions about APs and dual enrollment. So let me address it one more time before we move on to some other questions. Every school provides what is called a school profile to us. And what we find really useful is seeing what courses are available and what you were able to take advantage of. If we see on your school profile that AP classes, dual enrollment, etc., weren't available, we understand that is within your context and that was not available to you to take. It is not going to disadvantage you in any way. It would be very unfair for us to compare, let's say, a private student from NYC to a rural student in Alaska who has vastly different access to opportunities and courses. So that is information that we do see when we review applications, but that doesn't mean if you want, you can check out that Khan Academy Schoolhouse courses and learn a little bit more about those different topics that may not be available from your school. I hope that answered the question. If not, feel free to type another one in or rephrase it. With that said, I'm gonna scroll on down and see. Chase, there's a Stanford specific question. Would you mind answering this question from Heather? She said, you seem to be focused on entrepreneurship. If my kid is not entrepreneurial, is it still a good fit?
Yes, thank you so much. That is an excellent question. And I think that's a very popular question that we get asked often, being that we are located in Silicon Valley. So we do get a lot of students that are interested in tech, a lot of students that are interested in STEM, et cetera. However, we have very strong programs in many other areas as well, including the humanities, the social sciences. We have the Door School of Sustainability if you're interested in sustainability, related topics. We have many students that go into careers in every sector imaginable, from law to policy to education, nonprofit, et cetera. And the great thing about coming to Stanford is that you have up until the end of your sophomore year to declare a major. So you really have time to explore, and maybe entrepreneurship is something that your child might be interested in later down the line. But if not, they will find a buzzing community with many students that are interested in many different fields. Our students are problem solvers. They are interested in the issues that pertain to our world. And that's really the common thread, right? So entrepreneurship is not a requirement. We are looking for students that are curious and want to learn from diverse peers.
Thank you so much, Chase. I'm going to go ahead and answer the question from Christina about financial aid offers being sent right away with early action acceptances, or if they come later on. Feel free to answer from your individual institutions if it's different for Stanford, SMU, or Auburn. But for Yale, if you submit all of your financial aid application materials at the same time as you submit your early action materials, then you will receive both your financial aid package and your admissions decision at the same time. That's part of the reason why I encourage getting financial aid applications in as early as possible. The same thing goes for regular decision. If they're in at the same time, hopefully we can send you all of that information at the same time. I can't tell you the number of times, especially with the FAFSA debacle last year, things were delayed, right? And students were in April, had all these wonderful offers, but didn't know what financial aid was going to look like. And having that be kind of a barrier to deciding their next steps was really heartbreaking. So trying as early as possible to get that done once applications open would definitely be my suggestion for that. Feel free to jump in if there's anything I missed there regarding financial aid. All right, I'm going to ask another question, and feel free, whoever wants to answer can jump in. It looks like we have one from Max. Max lives in a small agricultural town, but the way school lines are drawn, Max attends a suburban high school. So do you know if Max would be eligible for any fly-in programs or maybe rural or small town programs that STARS or any of our institutions offer? I can jump in here if nobody is as familiar, I think, with some of these, depending on the school. Depending on the fly-in program, there's different criteria for how we designate rural. At Yale, we look at zip codes, we look at data from the National Education Center, as well as census tracts. So we look at where you live, but then also where you go to school. So if where you go to school is more suburban, but you are from a rural area, you would still qualify. But every school has a different, slightly different way of navigating what rural means. It's one thing that we as a collective network are working towards figuring out, because there is a lot of difference depending on where you live and access to school. So you should, in my opinion, qualify for fly-in programs, Max. Ooh, are there any schools that offer good film acting programs? I'm not as familiar. I didn't go to Yale, so I'm not super clear with all their programs.
Absolutely. So SMU, the Middle School of the Arts, is going to be known as one of the best contemporary art schools in America. So it's a really great school to go to, in particular if you're especially not only passionate about visual and performing arts, but you're also interested in diving into other majors that can help support your interests. So for example, a lot of our visual and performing arts majors do like to study psychology or pair it up within that. It's a very combination that really helps them prepare themselves further, not only their professional environment, but also within their studies. I also like to take a moment to brag about not only just the city of Dallas, but also the alumni we graduated from that school. So fun fact about the city of Dallas, we're also home to one of the biggest performing, a block of the performing arts. So we're really big on the arts. It's something that we're really passionate about. In fact, we have 2 districts in Dallas dedicated to it, which includes Deep Ellum. That's going to be home to the longest block that's dedicated to live performances, and then the Bishop Arts District. So we do have one that's dedicated just for that. And then again, our alumni that we graduated from Meadows, a lot of fun. So if you all are familiar with the show The Office, for example, the person who plays Kevin Malone, Bob Baumgartner, he's an alum. Super cool guy. Kathy Bates, award-winning actress, is also an alum. Lead actress of Gilmore Girls, Lauren Graham. My personal favorite is the guy who voices Patrick Star in SpongeBob, is also an alum. So you could say we're pretty good at our film stuff over here, but definitely consider us at SMU if that's something that you're interested in.
And then Phil, it looks like you're already typing in the answer for Auburn. You're ahead of it. Love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and answer Lillian's question about fly-in programs applications being closed. Yeah, so new ones are coming open and available all the time. Every school has different fly-in programs available throughout the year. Some of them happen over the summer, some happen in the fall. Maybe as a junior, you're kind of like in that search process, you might be attending in the fall, taking some time off of school to attend those. So keep an eye on that fly-in applications page. There will be new ones, whether it's at one specific institution available or a combination of us that you can apply for. And we do have programs for counselors as well as students. I know I saw a question in there before, but there are programs for counselors to come and visit our schools and share information back to their students in their small town and rural locations. See a question from Callie about how colleges consider GPA based on whether the school has weighted or non-weighted. I'm sure we can all answer that one. Would someone mind jumping in about how we review GPA?
Yeah, so I'm happy to speak to that question. I would say, every school is different. However, at Stanford, we focus more on, the rigor of your curriculum and how you've done, how you've performed in the most rigorous curriculum that is available to you, right? We know that every school is different. Some schools offer honors and AP classes. Some schools don't offer honors and AP classes. But it's all about making sure that you're taking the most rigorous curriculum that's available to you and doing the best possible. So, your GPA matters, and I think it does indicate, kind of how you've performed, right, throughout high school. However, I would say that what matters even more is how much you're challenging yourself in the courses that you're taking and, how well you've performed, right, in those classes. So ideally, for the institutions represented, you'll have more A's than B's, and you're someone that is really pushing yourself to take the most rigorous courses that are available to you.
Well, another great question from Farah. Looks like they want to know, how do I strengthen my college application in terms of extracurricular activities when there are limited options due to Farah's town? I can start. If anyone wants to add, feel free. Similar to receiving a school profile, knowing what courses are available to you, we also see some extracurriculars that are available. But I will also say extracurriculars are not just what is available at your school. It can be how you're involved in your community. It can be responsibilities that you have within your family, maybe a job that you hold. I always encourage students to list what is most important to them, what they spend the most of their time doing up at the top of that activities list, and kind of fill it in backwards from there. So the top few things should be what mean the most to you, that you're spending the most amount of your time on, and that may be something that's outside of what your school offers. So it can mean a variety of things, but that does not mean you are less than a potential student who has access to more opportunities. If anything, we encourage our STARS students to operate from an asset-based mindset, in the sense that you are bringing something to our college campuses that is different in terms of perspective, in terms of personality, geographic location aside. We want you on our campuses. That is why the STARS College Network exists, so that we can share this information, and hopefully you are empowered to apply and see yourselves on our campuses the way that we are looking for and want you on our campuses. And I know we are getting down to the wire here, so again, I apologize if we do not get to anything that you asked in here. But maybe to wrap up, instead of choosing one of the so many wonderful questions that are left, I'm wondering if we can each just share like a quick piece of advice for the students on our call tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Brenda. We can pass it along and wrap up.
Sure, absolutely. So a piece of advice that I always love to share is just keep an open mind throughout this process. It's going to be really helpful for you because, you might have a set idea or an expectation about what it might look like, but in reality, you might actually be a lot happier, much more fulfilled in like a different area or even a different school that you previously wouldn't have considered before, right? So keeping that open mind as you navigate this will really not only help you out in terms of making sure that you're picking the right place for yourself, but it'll also just make sure that you're landing in the right place that's really meant for you, and meant to embrace you in terms of that student culture and academic and other social and professional opportunities. So that's something that I always say to students. Again, it'll be really, really helpful to just make sure that you have that plan, but making sure that you're able to know that you'll be happy anywhere that you'll be.
I'll jump on. I think you're already doing the right steps, right? You're here engaged in this process. You're doing those extra things to learn. Um, I think part of this process is always connecting. And I think if you spend time finding ways to connect with recruiters, advisors, faculty, or staff of the institutions that you're interested in, you're going to find a lot of fulfillment in that and a lot of knowledge in that process. So I'm going to continue echoing this idea of making a connection to help your learning process. And that includes all of us on here, and we're all here to support you in this process. But just know that you're not in it alone, and that if you need support, you always have support. So great to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in there as well. I would, just say, and I think I may have opened up with the idea of, this is your process, right? This is your college search process. So you should be center stage at all times. It's not about what your friends doing. It's not about what your siblings are doing. You really have to, go through this process with the intent that you're going to make the decision that is best for you and your family. Okay, so while it's great to learn from your peers, right, what's best for your peers may not necessarily be what's best for you. So this is your journey. Continue to do what you're doing. You're attending wonderful information sessions like this, right, where you get to learn about the college application search and the process. You get to get some great information. Keep doing that, and just remember that this is your journey, and do what works best for you.
Thank you so much. This is all wonderful pieces of advice. The last thing I will leave you all with is please consider controlling what you can control. There is a lot of gray area in this college search and application process. It is not as black and white as we would like it to be. And every college and university does things slightly different. Even the four of us on this call, even though we're working together through STARS, do review applications differently and have different student bodies and different aspects to our campuses. So please make sure that you are doing, like Chase said, what is best for you. Taking in all the advice from parents, peers, guardians, teachers, admissions counselors, etc. But you drive the car. You are in control of that wheel. Ultimately, the destination is up to you. Okay. It's kind of like applying for a job. You're never necessarily going to get that feedback loop about maybe why you didn't get in. So make sure you are putting your best foot forward and that you are really proud of the authenticity you are putting forth in your application. Write what you want to write about, what you're passionate about, and your values in that essay. You don't necessarily have control over maybe that one test score you got that one time if you're submitting standardized test scores, or the classes you took freshman or sophomore year. You have control over the time and energy you put into that research process now and the time you spend on your application. So thank you for bearing with me. I know we are a few minutes over. You were all wonderful. I hope this information was useful. Like I said, it was recorded and it will be available on our STARS website, but we hope you all have a wonderful afternoon or evening wherever you're tuning in from, and wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much.